Donald Trump's deeply unpopular agenda means that Republicans run the risk of losing control of Congress in the midterms next year. So he's decided that the road to victory will be paved with gerrymandering. We've watched the first round of this battle take place in Texas, where Republicans successfully redrew congressional maps to allow them to pick up 5 additional seats. Now, with the help of Republicans in Missouri, Donald Trump is pushing this plan a step further. On Friday, in a 21-11 vote, the Missouri Senate passed new congressional maps, which would give Republicans an additional seat in that state, too. The Republican governor, Mike Kehoe, is expected to sign the new map into law. Unlike in Texas, Missouri Republicans had far less room to pick up an advantage. We're talking about a state where the GOP already controls the majority, holding 6 of Missouri's 8 U.S. House seats, with Democrats representing districts in Kansas City and St. Louis. Let me show you this map. There are 2 blue districts currently in the state of Missouri, the 1st and the 5th. You see just these 2. They represent Missouri's largest cities in a state where the population is otherwise relatively dispersed among more rural areas. Now, pay attention to the 5th district. That's Kansas City, Missouri. Okay? That's where it is here. Now, here's the new map. You can see how Missouri's once tiny 5th district of Kansas City now stretches more than halfway across the state, swallowing up all those Republican voters. It was tiny before because a lot of people live in the geographically small Kansas City metropolitan area. So let's expand on that. Let's look more closely at the Democratic stronghold of Kansas City. All right. This blue part is what is basically the current 5th district. All right. Now, this is the new 5th district. It stretches all the way out here. But what it does is it cuts the Kansas City metropolitan area into 3 different districts. The 4th district here, the 5th district here, which goes into the rest of the state, and the 6th district over here. Remember, this is the current 5th district. This is how it carves up the Kansas City area, dispersing those Democratic voters into 3 distinct districts, merging each piece of the Kansas City area with rural Republican counties that spread into central Missouri, which is going to weaken the voting power of black and brown folks in the district, and it's going to skew a Democratic district into one that is heavily Republican. That only doesn't just disenfranchise voters of color. Logically, the needs of a person living in a big city like Kansas City would not be the same as the needs of a person living in a more rural part of Missouri or any state, which raises a big question. How can one congressperson effectively represent such different needs across such a large and diverse constituency? The Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, who stands to lose his seat under this new map, issued a stark warning ahead of Friday's vote.
I hope all of us understand that decades and decades will be damaged by what goes on here. I want to warn all of us that if you fight fire with fire long enough, all you're going to have left is ashes. This could end up becoming a 5-3 map if Republicans are not careful.
Trump took to Truth Social to thank Missouri lawmakers for executing his plan and creating the new map, quote, which will help send an additional MAGA Republican to Congress in the 2026 midterm elections. It's wonderful to see Republicans in the show me state standing up to save our country. Now, this isn't going to stop in Missouri. Trump and his allies are looking for more opportunities to add more Republican-friendly districts in several states where the GOP has full control of state governments. They don't have to look that far. Ohio, Florida, and Indiana have begun the process of redrawing their maps as well. Joining me now is the Democratic Congresswoman of Kansas, Sharice Davids, not Kansas City, Missouri, but the other side of Kansas, in Kansas. She represents Kansas's 3rd congressional district, which includes most of the Kansas side of Kansas City metropolitan area. Congresswoman Davids has a unique experience with redistricting because in 2022, Republicans gerrymandered Kansas's congressional maps in an attempt to unseat Davids, and she won anyway. So the stuff that Emanuel Cleaver is talking about is interesting, right? He's saying, and some people in Texas have said, probably is going to go Republicans' way, but there's another danger to this. Talk to me about your story, and welcome back to the show, by the way.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I mean, you gave a pretty good outline already. You know, first of all, voters, I can't believe I have to say this again and again. Voters should be choosing their representatives and not the other way around. And the Kansas Republican legislature already did gerrymander the maps a few years ago, like you said. And, the fact that they are taking this unprecedented step to try to do a mid-decade redistricting because Donald Trump knows just how unpopular these extreme policies are. He probably doesn't know the numbers, but 79,000 Kansans are going to lose their health care because of this Republican budget that they just passed. It's outrageous. They know they can't win unless they cheat. This is exactly the kind of political power grab that has turned so many people off to even trusting the government. And the thing I am so angry about is that the Kansas legislature is once again looking at silencing the voice of so many Kansans. It's infuriating.
Let's take a look at what happened to you in 2022. Kansas Republicans attempted to push you out of your seat. You won, as we remind everybody, by double digits. Here's the gerrymandered map. So on the left is the way the 2nd District used to look, and on the right is the 3rd District. There's been reporting that Donald Trump is courting Kansas Republican leaders, as you've just mentioned, in an effort to push gerrymandered maps again. Talk to me about the effect this has on your district.
Yeah, so if I'm glad you put up this map. The fact is that when they gerrymandered the maps a few years ago, they did make a couple of promises. And one of the key promises was that they wouldn't split up Johnson County, which is the core. I don't expect everyone around the country to know where Johnson County is, but Johnson County is the core of the 3rd District. It is this very close knit community of cities and towns, and the Kansas Republicans that are looking to split up Johnson County and go directly against the promises that they made, including our state Senate president. He said specifically that they would not split up Johnson County. And now they're doing it because Donald Trump is telling them to. They should be listening to Kansas voters. Their job is to represent Kansans, not do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do. It is outrageous. And again, voters should be choosing their representatives and not the other way around. It's like the most simple concept in our democracy.
But when they gerrymander a district, how do you, as somebody who represented that full district, which now may become 2 districts or 3 districts or be completely shaped, how do you make that argument? How do you make the argument to people who are not your constituents to say they've disenfranchised you?
Yeah. And, one of the things that I think is so important about this is, in addition to voters should be choosing their representatives and not the other way around, is that I have been encouraging folks to reach out to their state electeds, because it certainly seems to me, and I could be wrong, our state Senate president and the other folks who are running for governor and just trying to get Donald Trump's endorsement can answer this question. I'm not sure they've even talked to Kansans about this, because every single person I'm talking to is pissed. People are so angry right now about the idea of being disenfranchised, of losing a representative who actually shows up everywhere I can in the 3rd District, because my job is to represent Kansans. I ran for Congress because I wanted Kansans to have somebody out in D.C. fighting for them. And apparently the Kansas Republican legislators who are looking to do Donald Trump's bidding don't care about what Kansans think.
It's going to be amazing to see how this all plays out. I think this is not a thing that everybody thought about, and now all of us are thinking about it quite a bit. You're the perfect person to have this conversation with. Thank you for being back with us, Democratic Representative of Kansas, Sharice Davids.